the 4% rule. It is the foundation of the entire FIRE movement. Financial independence. Retire early. Millions of people have built their entire retirement strategy around it. And the math behind it is far more fragile than anyone tells you. Not because the rule is wrong, because it was built for a retirement that most FIRE followers are not planning. Today, I am going to show you exactly where the 4% rule breaks down, the 3 scenarios where it fails, and what the actual safe withdrawal rate is for the retirement you are probably planning. Before I make that argument, here is exactly where the 4% rule comes from. In 1994, a financial advisor named William Bengen published a study. He analyzed historical market data going back to 1926. He found that a retiree who withdrew 4% of their portfolio in year 1 and adjusted for inflation annually would never run out of money over a 30-year retirement. 30 years. That is the word that changes everything. The rule works like this. Multiply your annual expenses by 25. That gives you your target retirement number. A portfolio of $1 million supports $40,000 of annual spending at the 4% withdrawal rate. The logic is sound. Bengen tested it against the worst market conditions in modern history, the Great Depression, multiple recessions, the oil crisis. The portfolio survived every 30-year period. The problem is not the rule. The problem is how the FIRE movement applies it. 30 years. That is the retirement the 4% rule was designed for. Now tell me, if you retire at 35, how long is your retirement? This is the first failure scenario. Retirement length. The 4% rule was tested over 30 years. If you retire at 65 and live to 95, 30 years. The rule works perfectly. If you retire at 35 and live to 95, 60 years. The rule has never been tested over that time frame. And when researchers have run the simulations, the 4% rate fails in a significant percentage of 60-year retirement scenarios. The rule was not built for early retirement. It was built for traditional retirement. The second failure scenario, the interest rate environment. Bengen's 1994 study was conducted in a world where bonds paid meaningful interest rates. His model assumed a portfolio split between stocks and bonds, and that bonds would provide stable returns to cushion market downturns. In a low interest rate environment, bonds provide significantly less protection. The cushion that made the 4% rule work in 1994 is thinner today. In 2021, Morningstar published an updated analysis. Their conclusion, in the current environment, the safe withdrawal rate is closer to 3.3%. Not 4%. On a $1 million portfolio, that is $6,700 less per year. On a $2 million portfolio, $13,400 less per year. That gap matters. The third failure scenario, sequence of returns risk. This is the one that almost nobody explains properly. The 4% rule assumes average returns over time, but the order of those returns matters enormously. If your portfolio experiences a major market crash in the first 5 years of retirement, when your portfolio is at its largest, the damage is catastrophic and often unrecoverable. You are withdrawing money at the same time the market is falling. You sell more units at lower prices. The portfolio never fully recovers. If the same crash happens in year 25 of retirement, when your portfolio is smaller, the impact is manageable. You have already spent down a significant portion. The crash hurts but does not destroy. Same average return over the retirement period. Completely different outcome. Sequence of returns risk is the silent threat inside the 4% rule that most FIRE calculations completely ignore. So what should you actually use? The answer depends on your retirement length. And here is the framework. This channel exists to give you the specific calculation, not the vague general advice. If that approach to money is useful to you, subscribe now so you do not miss the next breakdown. For a 30-year traditional retirement, 3.5 to 4% is defensible based on historical data. For a 40 to 60-year early retirement, 3.3 to 3.5% is the more conservative and historically supported range. For a 60-year plus retirement starting before age 40, 3% is the number most supported by long-term simulations. The difference between 4% and 3% sounds small. It is not. If your annual expenses are $40,000, the 4% rule requires a portfolio of $1 million. The 3% rule requires $1,330,000. A $330,000 difference in your target number, from changing 1 percentage point in your withdrawal rate. For early retirees, this is not a small adjustment. It is a fundamental recalculation of your entire plan. 3 people, 3 retirement ages, 3 different correct numbers. The traditional retiree retiring at 65 with a 30-year horizon. The 4% rule applies. $1 million supports $40,000 of annual spending with historical evidence behind it. The early retiree at 45 with a 50-year horizon. 3.3 to 3.5% is the defensible range. The same $40,000 of annual spending now requires a portfolio of $1.1 to $1.2 million. The fire follower at 35 with a 60-year horizon. 3% is the appropriate rate. $40,000 per year now requires a portfolio of $1.33 million. Same lifestyle, 3 different portfolio targets, determined entirely by when you plan to retire. The FIRE movement is not wrong about financial independence. Early retirement is mathematically achievable, but using the 4% rule to calculate your target when you are planning a 60-year retirement is using the wrong tool for the job. I know what some of you are thinking, but FIRE followers do not rely solely on the portfolio. They have flexibility. They can cut spending in a downturn. They can earn some income. The 4% rule is just a guideline. That is a legitimate argument, and it is partially correct. Flexibility does extend the safe withdrawal rate. A retiree who can reduce spending by 10 to 15% during a market downturn significantly improves their portfolio survival odds. But flexibility is not a plan. It is a hope. The correct approach is to plan conservatively using 3 to 3.3% and treat any flexibility as a bonus that makes an already sound plan even stronger. Not the other way around. Plan on the math. Hope for the flexibility. Not plan on the flexibility. Hope the math works out. Let me bring this back to the one thing I want you to leave with today. The 4% rule is not broken. It is misapplied. It was designed for a 30-year retirement starting at 65. If you are planning something different, and if you are watching this channel, you probably are, your withdrawal rate calculation needs to reflect your actual retirement length. 30-year horizon, up to 4% is defensible. 40 to 60-year horizon, 3.3 to 3.5%. 60-year plus horizon, 3%. Run your actual number, not the number someone else's retirement required. The foundation videos are complete. Debt versus investing, index funds, compound interest, emergency fund, and now the retirement withdrawal rate. 5 videos, 5 calculations, 5 decisions that most people make without ever seeing the math. Next video, I am breaking down the salary myth, the idea that you need to earn more to build wealth, and why the data shows that savings rate matters far more than income level in almost every scenario. Before I go, one question for the comments. What withdrawal rate are you planning to use for your retirement? For percent or lower? Let me know below. I read every comment. If the analysis today was useful, subscribe. 1 video per week. Always data. Never anything to buy. I will see you in the next one.